people vote? Is this over Brexit or something different? Over 4 million people have signed the petition so far to cancel Brexit. Rip. Rip. There was a pro-Brexit march too, but the fake news media isn't talking about it. Oh no. Damn. Oh my god, the UK is so fucked. Holy shit. Are they going to revoke Article 50? Wait, what is... So Article 50 is the way by which the UK leaves the EU, right? Is that... Let me just to make sure I have a full understanding. Article 50 is a clause in the European Union Listing Treaty that outlines the steps taken by a country seeking to leave the bloc voluntarily. Invoking Article 50 kickstarts the formal process. Does the UK even have the ability to revoke this, or would they have to get like support from the EU to do it? The EU, the UK can revoke it unilaterally? Okay. Wait, they can't revoke. They need support. The court's already decided. The EU ruled they could. Okay. Oh, this was a good ass meme. If Brexit is a disaster, I will go and live abroad. I'll go and live somewhere else. This protester. I think we're going to have to move to an insurance-based system of healthcare. I think that what was it? Oh, so right now I think what happened was I think the United Kingdom, the EU tentatively accepted pushing back Brexit. I think for a while or something. I don't remember how long, but but only if the UK agrees to accept the deal that they've laid out within the next week, within the next few days, I think, right? And if they don't accept that, then I think is April 4th the deadline or something? Where is it April 12th? Yeah, the UK has like 1 week to make a decision, and if they don't accept this, then it's a hard Brexit on like April 12th or something. Yeah. Whew. You shouldn't be able to do a referendum on a referendum, right? Personally, I don't think democracy works that way. I don't think you can do a second referendum. It feels like it breaks everything. This is the will of the people was to Brexit. I mean, I feel like you should Brexit. Like, if you're gonna have a democracy, right? Yeah. What is a hard Brexit? So, imagine you're California. Okay, imagine you're California and you're part of the United States. When you So in California, I can use dollars. I can drive to the country. Oh yeah, not everyone is American. Okay, wait. Well, I don't have to use an analogy, I guess. Never mind. We'll just describe the things. So as being part of the EU, there are a lot of things that happen as a result of you being in the EU. So for instance, you're part of a single unified market that people can sell to. If I want to sell products, let's say I want to sell products to France and Spain and Germany and Poland. I don't have to go and talk to all of these countries. I can just talk to like the EU as a whole. And once I can sell to the EU, I can sell to every single country in the EU, or I can buy from any country in the EU. All of it, it's a nice, simplified, streamlined, unilateral like fucking thing. It's an awesome market, right? One unified market. Now, being in the EU, there are things that you have to do to other countries to kind of like stay within like the provisions or whatever, the European Union government and everything as well, right? Now, let's say that I'm like, hey, I want to fucking leave the EU, okay? I want to get the fuck out of here. So if you leave the EU, you need to have all of your trade deals and everything on the books, ideally before you leave, right? Okay, well, I'm going to leave, but I still need to trade with Germany. I still need to trade with Poland. I still need to trade with all these other countries. So I am going to, let's get a whole bunch of trade deals worked out. So once we leave the European Union, everything can at least function similarly to how it was before, right? But the problem is that if you don't work any of those deals out, once the United Kingdom leaves the EU, they're going to be in a really bad position to try to bargain for good trade deals and good negotiations after they've left. Because now the EU might be motivated to take like bad action against them. It's going to be harder for them to work out any deals. The UK is going to have a hard time getting access to the European Union and those markets. So exporting products is going to be hard, which is going to hurt the economy. Importing products is going to be hard, which is going to hurt the economy. And they also have to renegotiate trade deals around the world as well, right? Because now any deal that the European Union negotiated, right? These multilateral deals, the United Kingdom is going to have to renegotiate on their own as well. But the problem is that the UK has nothing. None of this is negotiated now. No one knows what a post-Brexit no-deal United Kingdom looks like. And that's what a no-deal Brexit is, right? Like a no-deal Brexit is literally they leave the EU and they're like, fuck, like what the fuck? Like what am I supposed to fucking do? Like I can't trade with anybody. Like they're fucked. It's like, it's arguably, it's unimaginably bad. Like it's almost like the US like defaulting on the national debt. Like it's like maybe not quite at that level, but it's like, it's pretty bad. It's pretty fucked. Like to imagine what the UK is going to look like post no deal Brexit, you know? Is it possible everything works out and literally they're all fine? I mean, so like, I guess like an ultimate best case scenario would be the UK leaves and they manage to renegotiate every single deal so it's on equal terms as before. I have a hard time believing that'll happen though, because the EU is going to be motivated to not do that, right? Because they don't want to reward a nation for leaving the European Union. But I mean, I guess it's possible that they could leave and renegotiate most deals to be like decently as before, or maybe negotiate better deals independent of the European Union, although they're coming from a worse bargaining position, so I don't know how they'd be able to do that. But yeah, I mean, Destiny, you're exaggerating, to be honest. I hope they get no deal so you can say, well, I mean, they are going to get a no deal Brexit. I mean, I guess it's possible that it doesn't have that much of an impact on the UK, but it's hard to imagine. But I guess we'll see. $1.3 trillion and 7,000 finance jobs are leaving Britain because of Brexit. $1.3 trillion in what? In just like accounts, or? Banks and other financial companies are shifting more assets and jobs out of the UK as the country lurches towards Brexit. I'm sure there's a lot of industries that are going to be moving out of the UK as a result of Brexit as well, right? Because being out of the UK now, or being in the UK means you're out of the EU as well. You want to be situated inside the EU right? Why are they better at bargaining right now rather than when they leave, when the EU knows they're leaving? It just because there's less uncertainty. So one thing markets don't like, One thing that markets don't like is uncertainty. That's one of the reasons why people really liked, why the markets in the U.S. really liked Trump when Trump was elected. Not necessarily because Trump would be pushing like strong economic policy or because Trump would be doing things to help the markets, but more so that like when you get Democrats that come in and the Democrats want to have like more regulation and everything, things are a little bit less certain. Like you don't actually know like, well, what if the Democrats come in and they start pushing a whole bunch of like environmental regulations? Like, well, fuck, like this is going to fuck our shit up, right? So the markets get a little bit iffy. But when a Republican comes in, Republicans usually leave the markets alone, and markets like to be unfucked. They like to be left alone. So they tend to like rise, right? The stability is good. So the biggest worry about leaving the United Kingdom or leaving the European Union without any deals on the table is it presents a lot of instability. Like the markets aren't sure like what the fuck is going to happen. Is there going to be a deal that doesn't get negotiated that's going to fuck a certain sector of the economy? Is there going to be something that does get negotiated that like leaves somebody behind? Like, yeah, so the uncertainty is like really bad there. If the deal doesn't go through, the EU will grant a longer extension before 12th, depending on what May wants to do. No deal Brexit is actually not really that probable anymore. Wait, I'm sorry, unless this is an update from like today or yesterday, I thought that the EU told them that if they don't accept the deal as it stands right now, they're not granting any more extensions. Or did this change literally yesterday? Does it not benefit the USA if Brexit happens? Shouldn't we be happy about this? Well, arguably, no. The world should want more people to be unified. It seemed like, God damn it, I need to bring history majors or read history. I'm so ill-informed on history. So everything I say regarding history, you should take with huge grains of salt because, oh my God, I'm like very uninformed on history. So it seemed like there were kind of like two schools of thought like post-World War I and post-World War II. It seemed like post-World War I, the idea was that every individual nation needs to be a strong sovereign nation that stands on its own, and we need to do shit on our own, we need to get shit done, and everybody needs to kind of like take care of themselves and watch themselves. That was like it seemed like that was like the general trend or the general thoughts post-World War I. But post-World War II, it seemed like it was different. It seemed like after World War II, the thought was like, okay, well, hold on, this doesn't work. maybe we should all kind of like unify each other and work together, right? We need to create NATO. We need to create like all of these unions. We need to have all of these alliances. We need to have it so that everybody is kind of invested in everybody's success. And that kind of seemed to be like the post-World War II state, right? That's why we moved to like proxy wars and shit, because people didn't necessarily like want to go to war with each other anymore. And now we're all kind of like intermingled with each other's economies. China's success relies on the U.S. markets. U.S. markets rely on China's, manufacturing. Every country around the world is kind of invested in the economic success of every other country. The European Union binds all of the European countries together, right? Europe has a very fucking violent, bloody history. Europe is such a fucking violent. I know we talk about Muslims all the time, but oh my God, Europe's history is like fucking perpetual bloodshed, And it seemed like post-World War I, we had the League of Nations. Yeah, but post-World War II, we went real fucking hard. Like, we might have had the League of Nations in World War I, but post-World War II, we were like, we're literally going to fucking rebuild the fuck out of Japan. Fucking Germany is our new best fucking friends. We're going to help them, too. We forgave all the fucking war debts for fucking everybody. Like, even after the League of Nations in World War I, like, we were still, like, we came down real fucking hard on Germany. I don't think the League of Nations, accomplished much. Like, not compared to, like the United Nations and all of that shit, like post-World War II and everything, right? Post-World War I, they made the League of Nations, but the world's biggest country, the USA, didn't even fucking join. Yeah. The EU said if the deal passes, the deadline is 22nd of May. If the deal doesn't pass, it only is 12th of April. But they are open to doing an emergency Brexit summit before the 12th of April to grant a longer extension. Oh, gotcha. Interesting. Okay, so maybe they will continue to push it down the road. I'm sorry, I shouldn't laugh, but like, it's so fucked. The treaty that ended World War I was the worst piece of paper on the face of the planet and caused World War II. Is this the Treaty of Versailles, or is this... The League of Nations is just a comment about them going in the direction of internationalism. Yeah, but anyway, like the idea that like you have all these massive pacts and massive unions, the United Nations, NATO, the European Union, like these things, like, everybody is scared of globalization or sovereignty or whatever dumb shit. But the reality is that when you're invested in like the success of your neighbors, it kind of keeps people not directly fucking with each other. We do a lot of weird shit in the Middle East and everything, kind of like fucking with Russia and China, Southeast Asia, like that theater and everything. But at the end of the day, like, we want China to be successful because holy shit, our success very much rests on their success. And it's the same with the European Union as well. Like, when everybody's kind of bought into each other, the idea is less conflict. The idea is more investment in other countries. Like, yeah. Would you say you genuinely have the authority to make these statements apropos? I don't know what this word means. Hold on.
Apropos.
Apropos, with reference to, apropos of the UK economy, or do you agree this is largely speculation? Oh, I don't speculate on any of this on my own. This is all just like random shit that I've read, like impact of Brexit on you. I mean, we can go through one day and like read more articles, but I think that like the overwhelming economic consensus was that the Brexit was going to be like a pretty bad impact on the UK. Like when the first Brexit referendum happened, I think, didn't the pound lose like fucking, like, wasn't it double digit points in value? Although it largely recovered afterwards for reasons, but UKIP is set forward to put forward controversial YouTube activist Carl Benjamin as a potential member of European Parliament. There's no way he fucking wins that vote. You vote on MEPs, right? Those are all voted directly by the people. If you say is true, why hasn't the pund suffered more as a no-deal Brexit to be expected, but seems to be doing okay? So the thought right now is that I'm talking a little bit of shit. You should independent research. My uninformed guess is going to be that right now people don't think that a hard Brexit is going to happen, and the markets kind of have that priced in already. That the markets don't necessarily think a hard Brexit is going to happen. If it becomes super clear that a hard Brexit is going to happen, then I think you'll start to see the markets price that in accordingly. No one wants an actual no-deal Brexit. Yeah, but the problem is there's too many things that they're not agreeing on, or there are too many like hard lines where people can't. We watched an interesting video that summarized a lot of like the strict hard lines that people wouldn't agree on. Fuck, does anybody know what we watched? Was it a CGP Grey video? I don't know how to spell this dude's name.
I fucking hate offline TV camera
On the
shy
internet,
dinguses. XD, fuck you.
Nice. Hey, Before the Raj show, throw me your goddamn fucking Prime subs, okay? Before you go and give them to Raj. Fuck that guy. Don't give him any goddamn subs, okay? Destiny, that's not true at all. The hardliners in Parliament and the DUP 100% want a no deal. Really? It seems like a no deal fucks everybody. Is it this?
Hey, what's going on with Brexit? Well, there sure has been a lot of political squabbling here at Ground Level. Let's float away from all that for a look at the big picture. Up here, it's easier to see the 1, 2, 3 of the impossible trinity. But first, quick British Isles primer. The United Kingdom contains England, Wales, Scotland, and Northern Ireland. This last part of the United Kingdom shares the island of Ireland with the country of Ireland. This island is in the European Union, and the United Kingdom is, well, that's the whole thing, isn't it? Before UK voted to Brexit, the European Union wall encircled them all. The wall isn't literal, it's a metaphor for the overlapping circles of EU institutions and border complications impossible to draw, so it's a metaphor wall. Maximum Brexit is the exit, where UK leaves to build her own wall separate from the EU and be like any other country. This maximum Brexit is the top of the trinity, with a wall around the UK, which, following the border, would go straight across the Irish island. Oh no. The books on Ireland, Northern Ireland, and the UK's long and complicated and sometimes frightening relationship are not tomes to be opened here. The much shorter and safer version is there used to be a wall between the islands, but there was a lot of the violence and a lot of the troubles until on a very Good Friday, Ireland and the UK agreed there would never be a wall between them again. Full stop. This, while it didn't uncomplicate the relationship, at least made it non-violent. A new wall plowing between them would break this vital political promise. Thus, UK and Ireland and even EU all agree. A wall here is super no bueno. No wall across Ireland is the second vertex of the impossible trinity. Wait, why do we need a wall anyway? Oh right, the maximum Brexit creates a land border with the EU because UK is an island unto herself, mostly, but not completely. So if UK says this is unacceptable and all agree this is unacceptable, then the wall could go here, maybe? Compromise. UK tries to march out of the EU, but not everybody makes it. Northern Ireland stays in the EU, sort of, on the other side of the wall, while still being part of the UK, while the EU whispers into her ear that were she to let go and unite with Ireland, that's cool with the EU. Ain't no thing, girl. Poor Northern Ireland. She's on Ireland, but mostly thinks of herself as British, but also Irish, but could end up being the last part of the UK in the EU, while also having the right to leave the UK and join Ireland if she ever votes to. For UK, this situation means a wall inside the United Kingdom. No nation wants to create an external wall through internal territory. Thus, the final vertex of the Trinity. No walls inside the UK. Leaving Northern Ireland behind while staying connected to her also means some of those overlapping EU institutions can pass through the wall, making Britain's Brexit rather less than maximum. And political geography being what it is, that's it for options. This, or this. All of which the UK refuses. But you wanted the wall in a different place. That was like your whole thing. None of these are acceptable. Thus, the impossible trinity where the UK must pick a side. Promising no walls means no maximum Brexit. Promising maximum Brexit means there's gotta be a wall somewhere. And so for a long time, nothing of consequence happened.
Rees-Mogg, Erg, etc. are
Can
disaster
you pick now?
capitalists.
What if I put the wall here, but only temporarily? That doesn't solve anything. That just kicks the Northern Ireland down the road until we're right back where we started. So that's
Hi,
what's been going on
Twitch
with
chat.
Brexit.
Love you,
There's nothing as
Twitch
permanent
chat.
as a temporary
Fuck
solution.
GG
And ultimately,
chat.
there's no avoiding the Trinity. There's three things. Pick two.
What if the UK gave Northern Ireland to the Republic of Ireland? That would be solved, right? I don't know anything about that country. My guess is going to be that the people in Northern Ireland probably don't want to be part of the Republic of Ireland, though, right? Because there's a fuck ton of violence between those two countries, between the country of Ireland and the country of Northern Ireland, right? I don't think the people would want that to happen. I could be wrong on that, though. Some of them do. Why do they fight with each other so much then? Half of them do. Also, what? Yeah, a country giving up like territory, like the British Empire was like one of the most imperialistic empires of all time, right? Like, why would you give up like? Opinion polls on the unification of Ireland.
Starabine is now a Tier 1 subscriber.
So about half the people right now are in favor of it. So it's like split 50-50.
Professor Agnar is now a Tier 1 subscriber.
To the House of Commons, where Theresa May is performing a question-answer session regarding her Brexit deal.
Concerns of communities all around the country. She told the House that the EU would only allow an extension of Article 50 if there was a clear purpose. She's travelling to Brussels tomorrow morning to meet the EU summit leaders. What is her clear purpose?
I think if the right honourable gentleman had listened to the answer I gave for the first question that was posed in PMQs, he would have heard that.
Well, it wasn't clear at all, Mr. Speaker, other than she's going to try again with what we'll now term MV3. Surely, after two big rejections by the House, she must have noticed there isn't much support for the deal that she negotiated. So we learned this morning, Mr. Speaker, that she's only going to ask for a short extension, which directly contradicts what the Cabinet Office Minister told the House, saying in the absence of a deal, seeking such a short and critically one-off extension would be downright reckless and completely at odds with the position this House adopted only last night. So who is downright reckless here, Mr. Speaker? The Prime Minister ploughing on with an
Brexit originally happened under Cameron, right? Who called for the referendum?
unachievable, unsupported deal, or others in this House who want to achieve something serious and sensible to prevent the damage to the British economy, jobs and living standards all over this country.
The right honourable gentleman
Cameron called for it and then said no and left and moonwalked the fuck out.
talks about trying to achieve something sensible. It's the right honourable gentleman who last week abstained on a vote of a second referendum, despite the fact that it's Labour Party policy, and then had the nerve to stand up in this House and say he reiterated their support for a second referendum. He has no idea what he wants on the future of this issue. He asks about a long extension.
He said leave and left.
Extension. I'm opposed to a long extension. I don't want a long extension. Setting aside the issue that a long extension would mean we would have to hold the European parliamentary elections, which I don't think is in anybody's interests. The outcome of a long extension would be endless hours and days of this House.
When is the next set of British elections? Like, when do they vote on all of their MPs next? Members of Parliament, right? Or your representatives? Do they have like a unicameral or a bicameral? Can you use those terms in their parliament? Is it just one house of elected representatives, or do they have two different houses? It's 2022. Holy shit. Oh, the House of Lords? What do we normally watch? When we're watching shit like this? What the fuck is this? Is this the Commons? What the fuck did the House of Lords talk about? Okay, fuck.
Of this House carrying on contemplating its navel on Europe and failing to address the issues that matter to our constituents. Their schools...
Order. The answer from the Prime Minister must be heard, and everybody else will be heard. The Prime Minister.
The outcome of a long extension would be this House spending yet more endless hours contemplating its navel on Europe and failing to address the issues that matter to our constituents, schools and hospitals and security and jobs. This House has indulged itself on Europe for too long.
Order. There's a lot of very noisy barracking. Order. The Prime Minister's reply will be heard, and colleagues know that I am happy for the exchanges to take place for as long as is necessary to ensure that they are orderly. The Prime Minister.
It's time.
Is Theresa May, she's pro-leave, right? Was she?
It's time for this House to determine that it will deliver on Brexit for the British people. That's what the British people deserve. They deserve better than this House has given them so far.
Wait, May was Remain? Okay. It's complicated.
Mr. Speaker, to describe the parliamentary process as one of indulgence doesn't show much respect for the democratic process that sent us here in the first place. The House, Mr. Speaker, has twice rejected the Prime Minister's deal. She's trying to come back for another attempt on Monday. Further to your ruling last Monday, she's got to come up with something a bit different than she's come up with so far. So what significant changes will there be, either to the withdrawal agreement or the political declaration, that will even allow the Prime Minister to table it on Monday?
The right honourable gentleman talks about respect for democracy. Respect for democracy means that this House should deliver the Brexit that the British people voted for. And the right honourable gentleman...
election manifesto that won. He did it to take votes from a rising interest in UKIP. UKIP flopped the year and Conservatives won the election. In 2016 he honoured his promise and it happened. Then said no and left.
Okay.
The right honourable gentleman now wants to disrespect democracy by holding a second referendum.
Tier 1 subscriber.
It is not this government that is being disrespectful of the British people. It is the right honourable gentleman and his Labour Party.
Jeremy Corbyn!
The job of Parliament is to hold government to account, and the Prime Minister doesn't seem to understand that. When she was first defeated, she promised legally binding changes. I haven't seen those legally binding changes. All she's doing is running down the clock after a second heavy defeat. Today, Mr. Speaker, marks 1,000 days since the referendum. And this government has led the country and themselves into crisis, chaos and division. We are still legally due to leave the European Union in 9 days' time. Months of running down the clock and a concerted campaign of blackmail, bullying and bribery has failed to convince the House either or the country that her deal is anything but a damaging national failure and should be rejected. They've run out of time. They've run out of ideas. People, Mr. Speaker, all over this country are anxious and frustrated with this government's utter inability to find a way through the crisis. If the Prime Minister cannot get changes to her deal, will she give the people a chance to reject the deal and change the government?
Can I say to the right honourable gentleman, I think he's actually just made the point that I was making in my previous answer to him, that he doesn't want to actually respect the votes that took place in the referendum in 2016. We have a deal that keeps millions of livelihoods safe and secure.
Is Corbyn Leaver or Remainer? He's a Leaver, right?
It protects the union for the future. It means murderers and rapists on the run can be brought back quickly to face justice in this country. No deal won't do that. The deal is good for this country. It delivers Brexit and it should be.
Leaver, Remain, both. Leave, fence sitter, it's complicated. Wait, what the fuck? What the fuck is happening in your country? It's complicated. He campaigned for Remain. Corbyn has no ideological position. Corbyn is Leave, but his party is Remain. Wait, and so Theresa is Leave, but her party is Remain? So both of these people originally voted to leave? Or originally voted to Remain, but now they're both talking about how to leave. Dude, your shit is so fucked. Oh my god. Wait.
Be supported.
Peter Aldous!
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The announcement this week of the closure of Coe's Lowestoft shop, following on from those of Beale's, Argos and Body Shop, highlights the challenges that the High Street in Lowestoft currently faces. To address these, Waveney District Council are submitting an expression of interest to the Future High Street Fund, which I anticipate will be heavily oversubscribed. I acknowledge the various initiatives the government have put forward, but can the Prime Minister assure me that a coordinated, sustained and properly resourced approach, working with councils, will be pursued to revitalise our town centres, which are so vital to local communities and economies?
Well, first of all, my honourable friend makes an important point about the significance of town centres for our local communities. Can I say to my honourable friend, thank you also for highlighting the work that we are doing, the help we're providing through the Future High Streets Fund. Of course, high streets are changing, but we want to help them in that process and help them to adapt. That's why, as he said, the Future High Streets Fund is there. It has 675 million available to support local areas. But I'd like to also reassure my honourable friend that in doing this, we will be promoting partnership across the public and private sector, including local businesses, in developing those plans for the future of their high streets.
Ian Blackford.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can I associate myself with the remarks of the Prime Minister on the outrage that we all feel for what happened in Christchurch and New Zealand? We must work collectively together to drive hate out of our societies across the globe. And our thoughts are very much with the people of Mozambique.
Who is this fucking loser? Why the fuck are we talking about New Zealand here?
Zimbabwe and those from Malawi, and we must do all we can to support those in those communities. Mr. Speaker, all our constituents will be watching on at the crisis and chaos that we're in, and we need to reflect on the fact that we are a week away from what is the intended day from leading the European Union and the responsibilities that we all have. Mr. Speaker, 6 days ago, the Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster said, in the absence of a deal, seeking such a short and critically one-off extension would be downright reckless. Downright reckless, Prime Minister. Does she agree with her de facto deputy that her actions this morning are downright reckless?
As I have set out clearly for the House in a number of answers that I've now given on this question, I believe this House has a responsibility to deliver on the Brexit. People voted for Brexit, we have a responsibility to deliver. I recognise that the right honourable gentleman and his colleagues in the SNP have always taken the position they want to revoke Article 50 and not have Brexit. But the honourable gentleman chance can correct from a sedentary position. At least that's a firm position, which is different from the Leader of the Opposition, who has continually moved his position on this issue. But I also believe that nearly 3 years on from the vote having taken place to deliver on Brexit for the British people, it is time for this House to face that fact, to face the consequences of its decisions, and to deliver on Brexit for the British people.
Order! We can't have people shouting out in the middle of the exchanges. Order! I don't need any help from any member in dealing with these matters, with which I'm very well familiar. The Prime Minister. Grateful to us. Mr. Peter. Mr. Ian Blackford.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can I say to the Prime Minister that we need to reflect that her deal had the biggest defeat in parliamentary history. She brought it back, it had the 4th biggest defeat in parliamentary history.
But none of the deals have been agreed upon.
Her deal has failed. This House has voted against no deal. Once again, the Prime Minister is acting in her own self-interest. Not
oh my God.
Greater than being British in 2019.
Oh, there is a second
Hey,
one on this.
what's going on with Brexit? On the internet, the algorithms are all... Hello. I stumbled upon the EU's secret negotiation plan in the form of this slide presented by the chief EU negotiator at the European Council. This slide is amazing, and I want to talk to you about it. So, since the Brexit breakup, the EU and the UK have been trying unsuccessfully to broker a deal, and this slide makes it painfully clear why that has made such little progress over such a long time. It started with Brexit, where the UK voted to leave the European Union. Now, what that means isn't exactly clear, because the EU has a core center, but it also has many orbits of relationships. So the EU and the UK need to figure out where they were as a couple, and the UK has a list of deal breakers that, at least at time of recording, are non-negotiable. And that's fine. Everyone has relationship deal breakers. It would be unhealthy not to. Anyway, core no more. The EU's next closest relationships are with Norway, Iceland, and Liechtenstein as part of the European Economic Area. This is a kind of EU light. They're part of the unified EU economy with the EU's 4 freedoms: free movement of goods, free movement of services, free movement of capital, and free movement of people. So as an Irish citizen, since Ireland is core EU, I could go live in a cabin in Norway, even though they're not core EU because of the free movement of people, and vice versa. Now for the UK, free movement of people is a huge deal. Shut it down. Deal breaker. This makes an EEA-style relationship just impossible. So the next relationship orbital out is Switzerland, who has a unique relationship with the EU. She's not EU core.
I could be wrong, but I think the United Kingdom is a core EU member, but they're not part of that free move thing, but they do have this. They are part of the EEA, aren't they? Am I wrong on that? We do have free movement, people. They had free movement. Yeah, you have free movement, just not Schengen. Wait, you're confusing Schengen and the free movement? No, they're not. They're not part of the Schengen shit, but they were part of the European Economic Area, right? Yeah. Yeah. So the EU was in this orbit, right? Yes. Okay.
She's also not in the EEA, and she is completely landlocked by EU core members. I mean, except for Liechtenstein. So perhaps inevitably, despite not being part of the EU in any...
Why are people saying no? They were core EU. I didn't say they weren't core EU. The United Kingdom is a core EU. Okay, let me restate this one more time. Please don't say yes or no when I'm talking about complicated things. Type out a whole fucking sentence, okay? The United Kingdom was part of the European Union. Full stop, period. The United Kingdom was part of the European Union, but they were not part of the Schengen Free Movement Agreement. They were not part of that, okay? However, they were part of the free movement shit because they're part of the EEA, the European Economic Area. So they weren't part of the Schengen Agreement, but they were part of the European Economic Area. Correct? Thank you.
Anyway, she has over 100 bilateral treaties with the EU integrating their economies, which means that Switzerland has given up complete regulatory autonomy on goods and services to facilitate trade. This is also a deal breaker. Switzerland's treaties grant freedom of movement, deal breaker.
Wait, the UK is not part of the EEA. Hold on, I'm IP banning this guy if he's wrong. Roxer. Wait, so the EU, all full EU members are in the EEA. Okay.
And Switzerland makes significant financial contributions to the EU. Deal breaker. These two things are also part of the EEA. So while Switzerland isn't an EU member, in fact, she is basically in practice, but also like the EEA members, lacks representation in the parliament of EU core. So Switzerland's relationship with the EU is also not one that the UK wants to emulate. This now moves us to the outermost orbitals, and we get into the really deep asterisks of European Union foreign relationships. This is stuff like the European Eastern Partnership and the Deep and Comprehensive Trade Agreement, which sounds like political dirty talk, or the European Neighborhood Policy. A lot of the aims of these things is to bring neighbors more in line with Europe, either with what the EU politely calls the promotion of human rights or trade integration. But both of these bring up the final deal breakers for the UK. Taking Ukraine as an example, while not remotely an EU member or even close, she has agreed to let the European Court of Justice have some jurisdictional power in her borders. This is required by the EU for Ukrainian participation in Interpol, a kind of FBI for the EU that works on cross-border crime. Nonetheless, European Court of Justice jurisdiction does mean giving up some sovereignty on some issues, and that's a deal breaker. Or take Turkey, who can participate in trade negotiations under the aegis of the EU, presumably to benefit from the trading power a large bloc has, but this means Turkey doesn't have complete independence in matters of trade policy. Deal breaker. And so now we've passed the outermost orbital where a relationship even means anything, and so end up in an inevitable no deal, with the EU and UK's relationship being just regular countries to each other in the World Trade Organization, membership of which is basically every country on Earth. So the progress from EU core out to no deal is what this slide is showing. Why the EU thinks that path is the only path. But the UK has been saying very loudly she wants a deal, while also saying Brexit means Brexit. She wants independence, but also wants a relationship that's deeper and more comprehensive with the EU than just the cold WTO rules. But for the EU, it's impossible to see how to satisfy those desires desires contradictory without triggering the UK safe word. Which is probably why this EU negotiation strategy slide wasn't a secret, but was published back in December of 2017 by the lead negotiator in front of the heads of state, because this isn't a secret strategy. It's a clear illustration of the mechanistic result of all of the UK's deal breakers. I really do think this is a pretty amazing infographic in terms of clarity for a horrifify complicated.
Wait, Raj said you had to join or be replaced? Wait, I told him to message when we start. Is he done with his intro?
Okay. Join.
Wait, he said no, we're not ready to go. Wait, okay. Who said I was going to be replaced? Murasaki, you need to clip me or you're getting IP ban.
Topic, which is why I just had to make this footnote to share with you, because I could not bear to let it fade away into my notes as just part of the background reading. Anyway, that is why the Brexit timeline has been so long with so little happening. The UK has mutually exclusive wants, as also discussed in the main video in a different area, and it's really all down to the UK. She can stick with the deal breakers and go it alone, or she can drop some and settle in an orbital relationship with the EU, but she can't have both. I guess we'll see what happens soon. Maybe.
Who's in charge of Britain? Well, it's the Prime Minister, isn't it? The one we voted for? Actually, no, he isn't. Not only is the Prime Minister not in charge.
Yeah, I was going to say
Britain,
you don't vote for your
Prime Minister.
But we
didn't even vote for him. The Prime Minister is officially just an advisor to the real head honcho.
Me!
Yes, an old lady lucky enough to be descended from a family with the most violent army is our head of state. It's officially her country and her laws. Except you know that's not really how it works. Our parliament is a baffling thousands of years old institution that's been around for hundreds of years, and it's changed so much that the word officially means diddly squat. So how is the country actually run? What does the Prime Minister do? Who does the government? Why am there backbenchers? Government how Home Secretary there is? Parliamentary where cabinet reshuffle opposition right honourable what? Britain is a democracy, which means we, the people, decide how the country is run.
But instead of squeezing 64 million people into the House of Commons, we have 650 people representing all of us. How are they choosed?
The country has been carefully divided into 650 constituencies, each one containing roughly 70,000 voters.
Every 5 years, there's a general election. We put an X next to the person we like best, then the person with the most votes becomes our constituency's Member of Parliament, or MP.
Now, even though technically anyone can put themselves up for election, and they often do, they're almost always a member of a political party. But what is a political party?
Broadly speaking, it's a group of people that all feel the same way about how the country should be run. They have a party headquarters and a logo and a favourite colour. If you're a member of one of these parties, you're much more likely to get voted for because people know what you stand for. And political parties have got money to help with posters and leaflets and things.
There's nothing in the rulebook that says there needs to be such thing as political parties. They've just naturally come about. In theory, you could have a parliament made up entirely of independent partyless MPs.
It's just never happened, and they probably wouldn't agree on anything.
So that's how the House of Commons gets its 650 MPs. And now this is where she comes in. The Queen politely asks one of the MPs to be her Prime Minister. This is a tradition that dates back to the years of King George I, who needed an advisor to help run the country because he only spoke German. Officially, the Queen can pick whomever she likes, but so far she's always gone for the leader of the party with the most MPs. The Prime Minister then chooses a crack team of his best friends to form the government, a small group of people who do the actual day-to-day running of Britain, as in coming up with new laws and deciding where to spend our money and deciding how to get our money, etc, etc. The Prime Minister's job is to decide who does what, swap them around every so often, and give them a massive f***ing if they f*** up. But the government can't do whatever it likes. It has to be kept in check and challenged on every decision it makes. That's mainly the job of the party that came second in the general election. They're called the opposition. They pretend they've got government jobs and show you what they would have done if they'd won instead. Again, there's nothing in the rulebook about any opposition. In fact, the opposition wasn't mentioned in law at all until 1937 when they had to agree how much the leader of the opposition should be paid.
So what about the rest of the MPs who don't get a job either in the government or the shadow cabinet? They've still got a very important job to do.
What the fuck is the shadow cabinet? Is that the opposition cabinet? That sounds scary as fuck.
They're called backbenchers because they sit on the back benches, which are at the back and are benches.
It's their job to represent us, the ordinary folk, in Parliament. And they do this by voting on things.
Every time someone comes up with a potential new law, known as a bill, our MPs argue about it for ages and ages and then decide aye or no in a vote.
The ayes to the right! 400!
They use the word aye instead of yes because they're pillocks.
In theory, the MPs decide for themselves how to vote, but the slightly depressing news is they're normally told how to vote by the leader of their party.
Party leaders employ people literally called whips whose job it is to go around making threats and promises so that MPs vote as they're told. It's the only way you can get more than half of the room to vote the same way. It may seem like an insult to democracy, but actually that's pretty hard to justify.
Once a bill gets liked by the House of
Commons...
Wait, fuck,
I looked at the other screen and I didn't listen to that. I'm sorry, hold on.
Because they're pillocks.
In theory, the MPs decide for themselves how to vote, but the slightly depressing news is they're normally told how to vote by the leader of their party.
Party leaders employ people literally called whips whose job it is to go around making threats and promises so that MPs vote as they're told. It's the only way you can get more than half of the room to vote the same way. It may seem like an insult to democracy, but actually that's pretty hard to justify.
Once a bill gets liked by the House of Commons,
it gets handed on a piece of paper to the room next door, the House of Lords. But they're really weird and complicated, and I can't be bothered to talk about them right now, so they're a story for another time.
Wait, what is that? What the fuck is the House of Lords? Do you guys not vote on these people?
Sent back and forth like an onion between the two houses until ultimately one person gets the final say on what becomes a law.
Oh, go on then.
Isn't that insane that we actually live in a monarchy? It's 2000 and something, not 13 something.
Gradually over time, the Queen's role has become more and more ceremonial and she does more and more nothing. Her powers still exist, and in theory, the Queen could veto any law she doesn't like.
But she knows full well that if she tries to exercise any of her theoretical power and defy the MPs that we the people voted for, there'll be an instant revolution and will set her palace on fire. It's easy to forget all of this. When there's an
I
election
am
on, the
not
media
an
make it feel like...
employee,
Wait,
nor
unelected
am I a
aristocrat?
customer.
Okay, when we
Please
get done...
take my neat money smiley face.
We need to look up on this House of Lords shit. Hold on, I've never heard of this before. I'm not gonna lie. I never hear anything about the House of Lords. Ruled by appointment, heredity, or official function. Okay, I need to host Raj. I love you guys. Listen, vote for me till the end, okay? Ripper and a cappuccino, 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 my dudes.